Everybody get hugged. I didn't get one.
I didn't.
You look clean. Right. Okay.
Hiding in plain sight is
Paint those?
Star, right?
Hey, Vic. Victor, do you know how to run off 2 more copies? Never did that? I
We need 2 more copies?
Yeah, thanks.
You asked the wrong person.
I'm modern.
Victor lives
I'm
in
modern,
other
modernity challenged.
And you're going to be doing the online course?
I went to an executive committee meeting last night, and my president of my congregation came to me and he said, I went to study with Rabbi Zalman, and he said, and he looked to be about 80. He said, and he worked with an iPod. And I thought, my rabbi can't even use a Palm Pilot. I wonder where she's at. He said, if you would try, he said, I would buy you an iPod.
Wow. Well, this is the story of Hannukah.
So you and I will talk about how to
And I got one and don't know
iPod.
how to use it, but
All right.
you can record with it?
Hebra, what?
It'll record?
Yeah.
You get a microphone for it, and you can download the MP3.
In MP3, I get WAV files, so I can burn them right away on
You
CDs.
wave and say goodbye.
All right, listen, Hebra, enough. You say it about Torah.
Amen.
I like that shirt.
This is for all the angels in the room. You can help me with it, because you don't know it. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Have you heard that melody? It's brand new. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Yai dai da da dai dai la la da dai dai. La da 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 dum. Ay ya la 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 ya la 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 dum. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shevitchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim, Hakadosh, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Hakadosh Baruch, Yai Dai 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 La Da Dai 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 Dai.
The last part you have to sing again with smiles.
Cool.
Go ahead.
Lai lai la la lai lai ya la lai 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 la la lai 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 ya lai lai la lai 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 la la lai lai lai. It's hard for me. La la lai 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 lai.
Amen. And now that about
So it's Hanukkah, it's Shabbos. I have the great zchus of being with all you people, with my dearest Rebbe. And I want to say L'Shem Yichud Kudsha Brichu Shechinte L'Hord HaShefa Me'Halamot Hareini Mechabelai Mitzvot Bareinu for Rabbeinu Shel V'Yahavta L'Reacha Kamocha. All right, so Hanukkah. I love gematria in Hanukkah. And Hanukkah has an interesting bunch of gematrias in it. I'll try to remember. Hey, Rabbeinu. How you doing? Hey, Mark. So Hanukkah, Chet, Nun. Who does it with a Vav? Who does it without a Vav? Okay, good. Who does it with either a Vav or not a Vav? You won't raise your hand for anything, Victor. I got you. All right, you're my guy. All right, so Hanukkah. So with a Vav, Hanukkah has some seriously beautiful gematrias. One gematria is Chen v'kavanat HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That part of the holiday has to do with the grace and the intentionality of that Holy One of Blessing. That's all built into the Roshei Tevot. Chen, it's not the most clean Roshei Tevot I've ever done, but it's there.
Mit a bissl a Quetsch.
A Quetsch and a Shtip, yes. So, and then also Hanukkah has in it Chesed, Nechama, Vadaut,
Kahuna.
Kahuna, thank you so much, Rabbi. Kahuna and Hana'ah. That's all part of the Hanukkah with a Vav. And since that's the 5-letter one, that's the one that it touches us in some deep way to the 5 levels of soul, if we look long enough and sweetly enough, and with enough of a smile. All right? And now without a Vav. Hanukkah without a Vav is only a 4-letter job. And so then it's Chesed, and then it becomes
Nitzachon.
Nitzachon is very sweet, and then it becomes, there's another chaf I was using. It's Kislev for sure, but it's also Keter Torah, and then it's also Hadrachat Neshama. Those are also part of Hanukkah. If you also kvetch it a little bit, it's not perfect. I'm doing all right. And what I want to say is, it's also a very sweet holiday for kids, but it's also an adult holiday. Very often we give it over to our children and say, "This is Latke time. This is dreidel time. This is us hassling you about you hassling us about giving you so many presents." It's about double hassles. You want presents. We don't want to give you too many presents. We don't want it to be too Christmassy. You want it to be Christmassy. And so it's also about just being sweet with your children in spite of our own inner tensions. The inner tensions in Hanukkah are about between imperialism and between spirituality, between a victory of the spirit and victory of the knife. And it's a very tough holiday in that way. And it actually has come through the ages to really represent the splits in the Jewish soul in a very deep way, whether we notice it or not. It's also one of the major Jewish holidays, contrary to all the many rabbis who don't want their congregations to vote with their feet. You know, which is a bigger holiday, Chaverim? Shavuot or Hanukkah in America?
Hanukkah for sure.
For sure, because people vote with their feet. They show up or they don't show up. Shavuot, they don't show up. In some kehilot, I don't want to make it. I don't want to say chas
In many
v'chalila.
they don't. Yes, you're right.
Chas v'chalila. I don't want to say anything neged Am Yisrael, but they show up for Hanukkah in a serious way, in a light way too. They come. Yes, Rebbe.
The reason they come for Yom Kippur is because then the Torah was given with forgiveness, but Shavuot is
Din.
golden calf is
Very sweet. Thank you, Rabbi. So Hanukkah is actually a major Jewish holiday because people show up for it. So this is a time for us to show what's our deeper, as rabbis and as teachers and as holy people who want holy people to grow during darkness. We're grow lights for people in darkness.
Amen.
Yeah.
Steve Laban, would you go into Beth Midrash and bring me the Siddur of Zaslow. It should be visible there. Thank you, Yesher Koyach.
Well, I'm just wrapping up.
Go ahead, you got more.
Oh, I do have more. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So it's a holiday then of us being grow lights to our kahila and to our friends, and for us to actually know that the darkness is an inner projection projected outward, that the sun will return, that our own light will return. I've just gone through like maybe 18 months of serious non-solstice winter, and I'm so happy to be out of that, to be here with you smiling again. So I hope that this Hanukkah and all Hanukkahs to come allow us to truly be elevated, happy, full of life, full of gematria, full
The light
full
switch
of
behind
music,
you on the
full
door.
of deep rabbanus,
on the side there.
full of openings to what's next in our lives, let us say.
Amen. See, Hallel. He's saying a Hallel today. You know, all of us say a Hallel. Ma'ashiv la'Hashem kol tag malay olay. You know, I was in a place Hamantik Yadav Eronir Nisim Yoyed. You know, and then sof you get into the Me'afelu le'Euro. Thank you. I want to read you again. Some of you may have gotten it in the mail. I sent out the Alanisim shift. One, I didn't like to say Malchus Yavim Horsha'or, so I made it like this: B'mei Matityahu Kohen Gadol Hashmonai Uvanav Kishamda Alei Malchut Antiyachus Harosha Ubikish La'akor Et Emunatenu V'datenu V'hetzeru Lanu V'kavshu Et Hechalenu V'timu Et Migdashenu אז קמו נגדם חסידיך וכהניך, ואתה ברחמך הרבים עמדת להם ביצרתם. רבת את ריבם, נקמת את נקמתם, והיית בעזרתם להתגבר עליהם, לתאר את המקדש. מתוך געגועים להשראתך, רצו להדליק את המנורה הטהורה ולא מצאו שמן, עד שהורית להם שמן טהור. ליום אחד, ובביטחון הדליקו את המנורה, ואתה עשית להם נס ופלא, והשמן לא הפסיק עד שעשו מחדש, וקרבו 8 ימי חנוכה אלה להדליק נרות, לפרסום הנס, להודות בהלל, בשמך הגדול והקדוש, על ניסיך ועל נפלאותיך ועל ישועתך, והנהיגו לתת צדקה לעניים ושעשועים לילדים. So, if you'd like to have a copy to do that with your chevre, we'll do it at the end. Later on, make copies of that. I found a wonderful piece of Torah that I've been very fond of, and I would like us to learn it, to pay attention, and do that part that comes from the Ohev Yisrael, which you will recognize so much of what I often mention about Yom Tov and Hannukah and so on and so forth, right there. Okay? So, Lahavin inyan nes Hannukah mahu. V'lama kavu chazal hanes dafke al hanes shenase bashemen, ולא על ניצוח המלחמה שהיו באמת חלק גדול וגבורה נפלאה ומפורסמת. Interesting, it's the old kasha, everybody is asking that, and the historical things have often been said are due to the fact that the Chachamim weren't so happy with the Maccabees, because who won in the end when Alexander Yana and Hyrcanos and all these other people become the high priests and kings of the Hashmonaim. So therefore, you might say that they didn't like so much the historical thing, so they didn't take the Megillat Hashmonaim and make it something as part of the canon. There is an interesting thing in Megillat Hashmonaim, which is to show the difference between how it is in Tanakh and how it is in the apocryphal books. The apocryphal books have a way of making drama big. So he comes in, he's about to kill Bagris, right? And he's holding up the knife, and in mittendrin there is this panel, everything freezes while he's saying, "Dear God, I'm not doing this for this reason, only for your people." Da 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 da, and it looks like an old melodrama in which everything is frozen and nobody. And the guy doesn't move, you know, and so on and so forth. Whereas when it comes with the king of Moab, there the action is a lot more swift and it hasn't got all this kind of drama. So I can understand why Chazal weren't that happy about it. Okay. וגם ונס יותר גדול מנס הנע זה בשם לכאורה. וגם להבין מה חז"ל שאמרו אז רישי האומו לישראל, כתבו לכם על קרן השור שאין לכם חלק באלוקי ישראל. Now, this is so wonderful because it takes a Agadata that we have and immediately treats it as if it was a fact. You know? The move from the midrashic to the factic in the mind of the Chachamim is very, very swift, you know? It's almost unaware that they're moving to a drush. You know, it's almost like saying when that funny conundrum was asked of kids in Cheder, that the archaeologists found 7 horns on an island in the Nile. Did they belong to the fat cows or to the lean cows? You know, and so Ahin and Ahen, the kids argue it must have been from the fat cows because the lean cows spit out the horns from the fat cows and that's why they are there. Until finally says it was a cholim, how could they find?
Right.
Right. So you see, and so the same kind of situation is here, that there's a move immediately to that. So there's a Keren Ashor, and they want the Keren Ashor. And why do they want it? Because they have good Kabbalistic reason for that. Okay, that's what they did. But we follow him, okay? ולמה דווקא על קרן השור? Now you can ask this question. ועוד יתבהר בזה כמה דברים נפלאים ונסתרים, ויש להבין. ויש לומר, אחר אשר חנן השם כילדיה ברחמו וחלק לנו מבינתו. I have a sense from having sat with the Baba Rebbe once, when he lit the menorah, how he sat in front of the menorah for half hour and kept on looking at the candles and didn't say a word. And I tell you something, in Hasidic situations that would be a pele, you know, not even a nigan, no divrei Torah, you know, because he wanted to be Mekayim. Ein lanu reshut leishtamesh b'hem ela lir'otam bilvad, not to do anything else but to look at them, and that was just wonderful. My sense is when he's saying v'yesh lomar achar asher chanan Hashem ke'ildea berachma v'chalak lanu mibinato, that this is what occurred to him when he watched the candles. Okay.
Rabbi Avishayla. So l'chadchila, I get that, but b'di eved, do people today? Because with my son, it's very hard to get my son to like hang out at those candles for more than 8 seconds unless we're doing something. He's 8 years old and very hyper and very brilliant. And so part of the thing is, how do you do that thing, not to use the candles for something else with a kid like that?
Well, I tell you something. That's why kids get dreidlach and all the other things and Hannukah geld. So that is, how would I say, like Pavlov's conditioned reflex, you know? When the candles are there, you get those things. So the candles are the stimulus for that. But I think for us it's going to be really important to, if we can have that time, to just look at the candles and to see what arises for us at that time. The Hasidim used to always have a saying, when they didn't like somebody who was selfish, they would say, he's a luminary, he's a Hannukah candle. In lanu reshut leishtamesh b'hem, you know. You can't get any use of them. I much rather like the shamas, you know, who brings light and from whom you can have some use, okay?
You know, I just want to say in this, with children, you know, when the candles are lit, then we sing every Hannukah song we know, over and over and over again while the candles are burning. And so we're not sitting in silence and gazing, but we're sitting around, we're looking at the candles as we're singing the songs. And our children just expect that that's and that the gifts are not distributed and the games are not played until after the candles are burned. So, but it becomes a music fest, which you could certainly do.
We've been doing that. Thank you.
Oh, ihr kleine Lichterlach, ihr erzählt Geschichtelach, Meiselach, oh, not so. You little lights, you tell all kinds of stories, stories without numbers, so goes that. Okay. והוא, דהנה בצלאל עשה המשכן והארון וכל כלי הקודש בשלמות התוארים, כמו שהראה לו השם יתברך למשה רבינו עליו השלום בהר. אך, עם כל זה לא נגמרה עדיין המלאכה בתכלית כוונת תוכן הדברים והעניינים ההמה, כי לא היה להם עדיין חיות כמצטרך עליהם לרצון הבורא יתברך שמו. Here you have a situation in which everything was done according to the plan that Bezalel was shown, but still it wasn't alive yet. That's such a wonderful notion to think of an inanimate Mishkan and say, but it wasn't alive. Now, when I look at synagogues today, and sometimes, lahavdil, you walk into a church, the more high a church is, like a Roman Catholic or Greek Orthodox, you have a sense, Bebeit Elokim nahalech beragish. You go on tiptoe, and it feels like there's someone there. The sanctuary light is there. It feels like you're entering into somebody's space. Lahavdil elef havdolas. Sometimes we walk into a shul. This window, you see, is my grandfather who gave it, and we have a sense that the place is empty. There's no hashra out there. And partly this comes from the sense of that we haven't created that next thing that we're going to hear. Ad asher mashach otam Moshe Rabbeinu vashon b'shemen hamishcha. When he took the shemen hamishcha, al balem chiyut mamash, v'hayu az hakelim kemo chayim. Ukemo shematzinu v'hakruvim kemam chazal, that they would become alive, and if everything was b'sholem with us, they were face to face, and otherwise they were back to back. And so that had a sense of that the whole place came alive. Now, that is such a sense that in the past people used to think of consecrating a building or consecrating a cemetery. It had the sense of trying to make it come alive. Lahavdil again, there are some statues that Hindus have, and when it comes out of the factory of Terach, the idol manufacturer, they're considered to be still dead. But then if a Brahmin is going to do something and invoke the divinity to come and dwell in that statue, so that it should really start taking up space. For us, L'moshel, when we hug and kiss a Sefer Torah and so on and so forth, we really have a sense of, how would you say, like they say, the physical presence in the bread and wine, There's Anochi is Ana Nafshai Katavit Yahavit. I have written myself in the Torah. So the Torah is really there, the embodiment for us at this point, okay? So he says he came alive. And why is it that the Shemen HaMishcha was able to do it? V'hainu al yedei Shemen HaMishcha himshich al kein, no, al kol hakelim chiyut elyon. V'shefa kedusha umeshach rabot ilai kadisha memor chochma ki ha-chochma techayev. So now he has a posuk. He's using the proof test of the posuk that chochma has the power to give life. And he has another equation that Shemen and Chochma, Shemen Sosed Mechavrecho, Shemen has to do with Chochma. V'zeu sod Shemen HaMishcha, and zeh yesh sod Shemen HaMishcha. V'al yedei HaShemen, v'al yedei HaShemen, hayu mamish kemo chayim. They became alive. Now, this is such an amazing statement about an alive sanctuary, that I asked myself once, what must it have been like when there was a sanctuary, a functioning sanctuary? The best mashal I can give is a Wi-Fi place. Wi-Fi. That's like you come into a certain space where wireless can pick up. You don't need to have a plug-in, right? Because in this makom, you are connected to the internet. Okay, nice. So there is this possibility then that you get there's a broadcast, there's a beam going out, and if you have your little computer and you bring it in the laptop, you can see whether it'll show whether there's Wi-Fi in that place or not. That there is a connection.
Do you notice
that's
last
available.
month they started on the Midrachov in Jerusalem? They just set that up.
Say it louder.
On the Midrachov in Jerusalem,
Yeah.
it's now Wi-Fi.
That's wonderful.
A little bit off from the Temple Mount, but
That's wonderful. So you get a sense now. You get a sense of this. You get a sense of what Teilhard de Chardin was calling the noosphere. It fills everywhere with communication, with knowledge, with awareness, and that's great. But I want to say more. I had the opportunity once. This was a wonderful story. Maybe I'll tell it more detailed. District of B'nai Brit has invited me and Louis Jacobs, and there was another person, I can't remember right now whether it was Lou Silverman or someone else. And we were invited to come to Texas. So we were in Hunt, Texas, and we had to go to mineral wells. And so there was a guy from mineral wells to Hunt. So there was a guy who decided that he's going to take us in his private plane. It was a wonderful trip, because we didn't have to go back into Fort Worth. He had his private plane there on a runway and takes us out. Man, it's a wonderful flight. And he says, should I steer around the clouds or should I go through the clouds? And I was just hot on the cloud of unknowing. And I said, go through the cloud. And it's so wonderful. It looks like you're not moving. Nothing, it's all this sort of white until finally you break out of the cloud. What kept him going the whole time to know that he was on? He was showing us this. He had a radio. And when the radio went beep, 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 he was on the beam. When it went beep, 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 he was off the beam. So the radio beacon kept him going on the beam. I thought that if you can imagine that there is really a Beit HaMikdash, and this Beit HaMikdash is a place where a broadcast goes out, and he says, Bat Kol Yotze Mehar Chorev, and so on and so forth. The broadcast comes from the Kodesh Kodeshim. And you can imagine when people live in such a way that they get the broadcast and they feel the Hasha'ah in their life. And then all of a sudden it stops, or the signal gets dirty, that someone has sort of manipulated the signal, and instead of taking you the straight way, it goes wrong. Betimu kol hashmanim, and you have a sense that all of a sudden the broadcast that's come out is a terrible broadcast. Can you imagine how upsetting this must be for people? And on a subliminal level, I'm not sure that they always were clear about that, but sometimes when you can feel that in Yerushalayim, Erev Shabbos, the business, this last bus is gone and they're blowing the shofar and they're letting you know it's something descends and you have a feeling you're now in a different realm. And when you get a wrong message and all of a sudden it distracts you, Imagine if all of a sudden from the message of tranquility someone comes with gangster rap. How this would upset who you are, you wouldn't know where you're going, and so on and so forth. So I have the feeling that that's what the Timur Kol Hashmanim was about. And then comes the question, why didn't they wait, everybody asked the question, to make oil take 7 days to make oil, so why shouldn't have they waited 7 days and then light the first time, then they would have the ready oil in Somchin Alanes. You could have done that way. And what came to me is that they needed a God fix so badly that they said, let's light at this point, and we'll see what's going to happen later on, but at least let's catch our breath in between. So that's how I feel that thing, and that's what occasioned the nest too afterwards, so they were so hungry for that. So he says, Kshemen mishchas kodesh aleim, v'hine ksiv, Kshemen atov yored al zekan Aharon shiur al pi midotav. Now he goes with that shemen that comes from Chochmah and connects it to Aaron. Where is Aaron on the tree?
Hod.
In Hod. Okay? Now watch this. V'shemen hu Chochmah, v'hainu shefa chiyut ha-Chochmah, asher mishom nimshach ha-shefa v'chiyut ha-kodesh l'chol ha-midot ha-kdoshet u'l'chol ha-olamot. וזאת ידוע שהכל הוא על ידי ישראל עם השם בני קהל חי אשר כל עסקיהם וכל עבודתם עבודת הקודש ומגמתם הוא תמיד להמשיך שפע חיות החוכמה ולהגביר כוח הימין בעולם והשמאל תקלל בימין. Okay? Small is, the Latin is sinistra, from which we get the word sinister, and it's all that thing that isn't quite kosher. Here, sometimes in this volume it speaks about the feminine being on the left and the masculine being on the right. Okay, you have that up to now. Let's see what he does with it. He says the whole point is to make the left included in the right. ומשם ירד שפע שפע והחיות הקודש לכל העולמות ולכל המידות. ומלכות הרשע רצו להגביר כוח השמאלי בעולם, לאשר משם הוא שורש אחיזתם ויניקתם. I hope he doesn't mean the political left here, because I think the political left has more condition than the political right. But at this point, he's saying that was their thing. They wanted to make sure that the left will take over. ובזה רצו לטמות כל השמנים חס ושלום. היינו כל ההשפעות הקדושות הנקראות בשם שמן. וכנ"ל. וגם כן ידוע שאריה מימין ושור משמאל. In the four faces of the apocalypse, of the Chayot in the Merkava, Pnei Shor is seen on the left, and Pnei Aryeh is seen on the right. Okay, so we have just heard that they were saying Al Keren HaShor. So what does that mean? Because she'amru liYisrael kitvu lachem Al Keren HaShor, haynu Al Tokev v'chozeh Keren HaShor, shu koach hasmali. In other words, not only should you say that you don't have a chelik b'elokei Yisrael, but buy into the Keren HaShor. Okay, this is always a very remarkable inyan that we have to keep in mind when we are doing any interfaith work. Sometimes you would get an invitation from somebody to participate in, let's say, communion. Under what circumstances would I be even thinking about a possibility for that? It depends on the cleric. If for the cleric it would mean that my participation in that is apostasy, that I give up my own religion, then I would say, no, I'm not going to do it. If it is an inyan of Bafar Hesya, where I might lead other people astray, I'm not going to do it. But I had a situation with
Matthew Fox.
Van Buren, Paul Van Buren. Paul Van Buren was the head of our department at Temple University. He was a great Ohev Yisrael, and he was one of the people, the radical theologian, Van Buren, and forgot the other names at this point. One was in
Rubinstein,
on the Jewish side, and
Altizer,
and Hamilton. These were the three people who were involved in that. So here we are in Vancouver, and we did a Hillel and University weekend, and on Shabbos he came to daven with us and participated with us, and I let him read the Haftorah in English, because we were doing things together. Come Sunday, he is celebrating Mass, and he's in the vestments, and he's an Anglican, he's a Episcopalian. Dafke, he wanted to have a challah, a Shabbos dige challah, and Manischewitz wine in order to be able to do his thing. Okay. He comes to the last gospel, taken from the Gospel of John, and there it says, and he came unto his own, and they received him not. And he says, I bear witness that this is not true. You hear that? Who else received him? To whom else did he come? He was the one who didn't want to throw the bread to the dogs, but to the children. Can you imagine that in such a way? From such a guy, I take communion anytime, because he doesn't have in mind that thereby I have, he wants to share his table, but he doesn't necessarily mean to take that my participation with that means that I'm quitting my religion. I think that's an important thing to remember. I go to a church sometimes for service. I keep my yarmulke on. When I do a retreat out at Snow Mass, then I stay in the back. They have their choir in the front, and in the back there are some seats. And so I do my davening, they do their davening with the talis and tefillin. I do my stuff. When it comes to Tehillim, they say it in English, I say it in Hebrew. We participate in this way together. So it's that kind of thing. I think I told you the story about the Shabbos thing that I did there. Friday came, and I went to the guy in charge of the kitchen, asking for a couple of rolls and for grape juice and some candles. What do you need them for? Candles is right away. Bread, wine, candles is a sort of a giveaway, right? So I explained to them that's after Compline, and after they have had their dinner in the refectory, I still want to come back after sunset and have the candles lit and make Kiddush. Could we join? So they come and they hang out, and I sing some Shlomo Karlebach nigunim from different Piskei Tilim for the sake of my brothers and friends and so on and so forth. It's the gates of liberty. The next Shabbos, I was still there until the next Sunday. They say, can we do that again? So I said, yeah, but I have a condition. What's the condition? We're going to do some role-playing. I'm going to be Joseph of Arimathea, who lives in Jerusalem. And you're going to be disciples of the Master who live up in Galilee. And you've come to Jerusalem to spend Shabbos in my house. Okay. So that's at St. Benedict's in the refectory where we're doing that. So they come and sit around, light the candles, make Kiddush, and we do the same thing with singing. And then I say, "Nu, what's the news from Galilee?" And one says, "Wow, we had this wedding in Cana, and we ran out of wine, and here's what happened." And they started to retell stories of the Nisim and the Flois and the teachings and so on and so forth that happened there. And then we did Birchat Hamazon together. So what do I want to point to? That this was a meeting in which neither of us had to give up anything, okay? And we could each bring the best thing that we had. So, but he is saying that they wanted Davke Keren Hashor, Korach HaSmoli, and so on. ורוצה לומר שישראל יסכימו על כוח השמאלי בהנהגתו העולם, כי אין לכם חלק בלקי ישראל חס ושלום. וזה היה רצון הרשעים הקליפות. והנה, שירידת השפע העליונה הקדושה, הוא באין הפסק מיוד ג' נהרות המושכין שמן עפר סמון, עד בחינת ציון וירושלים, בחינת יסוד ומלכות. That needs unpacking, okay? There's always the question about what is the reduction that happens between Ein Sof and finally to more finite worlds. And one of the things is there was a Tzimtzum. And the Tzimtzum is that he removed the light, Tzimtzum et ha'or letzdadim, v'naseh Chalal ha'panui, and into this Chalal ha'panui he sends down that ray, the Kav, okay? And there was a machloikis between Reb Shneur Zalman and the Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon said there was Tzimtzum kepshuto. There really is a Chalal ha'panui, and God is not in that space. Reb Shneur Zalman says, Leit asar atar panui minei, it's impossible, God shouldn't be there. So how do you make shalom between these two notions? Along comes Shmuel Bauman, and this is that work that Shai is now working the translation with, who says the following. The Tzimtzum was, of all the other midot, Chochma, Bina, Dat, Chesed, Gvura, Nesa, Hod, Yesod, they were pushed aside. What remained was only Malchut. But Malchut is Leitla Migar Meklum. Malchut doesn't have any light of its own, and so that's the pshara that he makes, and it's a very good pshara. That's to say that still Ein Sof is present in Malchut, but not in those things. Malchut doesn't reveal itself so much. And so therefore it's about Melech, Kol Kivuda Bat Melech Penima, she doesn't show herself that way, and so on. Masha Enken, when things are shining through Malchut, then it goes, but otherwise Malchut doesn't have any light of its own. Okay? So that's his way of answering this question. Then between Ein Sof and Adam Kadmon and Yud Gimel Midat HaRachamim, which are in Keter and in Arich and in Atik, there is a division. Between that and Atzilut starts another division. So HaChochma Me'ayin Timatzeh, that it looks like Chochma comes from nowhere, as it were. It doesn't seem to come directly. It occurs. That's why they call it a Metzia comes Behesach Hadat, you know? A Metzia comes Behesach Hadat, which means I'm not aware where it came from. And so it's a good way of speaking of intuition. Where does intuition come from? Intuition comes from a place, but it doesn't seem to have a sender on it, where it came. It pops in, and there it is. So here's Chochmah. So there's another reduction that takes place. Nevertheless, for all the reductions, what is coming down is still that light that comes from the Yud Gimel Midas HaRachman. That's how he talks about this. Mashal. Some of the bulbs that I have, instead of this regular filament, a fluorescent one. Then the fluorescent one still has a white, a sort of milk glass, etch glass, thing. So, inside the fluorescent tube, the light itself is not in the easy visible vibration. It has to be slowed down. So it has barium, platinum, cyanide, or something like this, a powder, which is the fluorescent powder. So when the ultraviolet light that's in the fluorescent bulb shoots through, we don't see that light. We see the impact of that light on that powder. And the same thing is with TV screens and with other such situations, okay? Then, on top of that, there's still the other screen too. So you would see there has been a reduction of light and make it more comfortable for our eyes. And nevertheless, the light that was originating comes through. And that's the point he wants to make, that despite the fact that there have been diminutions of light, it still comes from the Yud Gimel Naharot Hamoshin Shem and Afarsamot. And that is the light that finally hits Yesod and Malchut. Vaz nizunim kol ha'olamot, brachot, shefa ilah, v'chol chedu, v'chol tiva, v'chol nahorin, Elohim kadishim. And he likes to use this quote from the Zohar, which says, all ecstasy, all joy, all that comes along with the light. How would you say this in Sanskrit? Satchitananda. You know, consciousness, being, consciousness, bliss. Okay? Kol chedu v'chol svansa. Achen, malchut harsha, asu yud gimel pirtzot behechel, kemama chazal shepartzu yud gimel pirtzot bechomot ha'azarav. They broke in on 13 places. Now, 13 places is interesting because when you belonged to a shevet and you went into the Beis HaMikdash, you would go by the entrance of your shevet. So you'd go, if you belonged to Yehuda, you'd go through the gate of Yehuda, and if you belonged to... What happened if you were a Ger Tzedek, or you didn't know which gate you belonged? So there was the Shar Kolel, which was the 13th Shar. So they all asked the question, if there's a 13th Shar, so they should have had only one Shar, like the 13th Shar, which is good for everybody. Why do you have to make the differences? So when I wrote my a minor thesis for my doctorate, there was one that I wrote for Petukowski, and that was on Kabbalistic prayer intentions on the Amidah, where he asked the same kind of a question. When you ask Atach Honein, you're addressing Chochmah and Patach. So why do you have to do it that way? Why can't you go and do sort of a general? And why do you have to go and particularize it, you know? Because that leads people to complain. Instead of having one God, you know, have a decatheism with the 10 Sfirot and so on and so forth. Why do you make differentiation? So they come up with an answer, and they say like this, that if you belong to that Shevet, you get a better attunement if you go through the gate that is your gate. And if you have to go through the Shar HaKolel, it is less precise for that. Okay, that's the answer they give. And so, also, why is it Lama Enam Nenim? How is it that we could pray and we don't get answers? Mishum she'enam mitpalalim b'shem. You're not praying to the right shem. In which way do they say that? Instead of saying Charlie, you say Bill. You know, you're not addressing the right thing. And that sounded a little funny to me until I get the passwords and logons and so on and so forth. Yeah, and you get to see that it makes a difference that you emulate your docking place, you know, where you check in, that you have a, you know, sometimes it happens in biology too. One of the things that they like to do to heal certain diseases is to find ways to block certain receptors. You know, there are receptors of nerves and so on and so forth, and if you can put something there to block it, it will not permit something else to come in. So you have to really go to the right place. So when they broke the 13 pirtzos behechal, bezetimu kol hashmanim kulam, because that is what creates that confusion afterwards. So there was this confusion of kedusha. You no longer knew what's right or what's wrong, which way to be. וכשראה והבין זה מתתיהו כהן, נתקנא מאוד קינת השם צבאות, ותיקן כביכול ההוד לבוש מלכות. So that brings it back to Aaron, Zekan Aaron. Remember you mentioned it before, and Aaron is an hod. And so because he was a Kohen, he fixed the hod. Al yedei shetikna yud gimel midas v'anarot hamoshchen shemen aparsimon ad hamida hashminit shu notzer chesed sot mazla ilo kadisha shemisham nimshach kol ha'ashpot kedoshas debrachot v'chol tivol v'ched l'chol ha'olamot. So notzer chesed la'alafim is number 8, and b'nei bina yemei shmona, that you have in the Maus Sur, and from Bina on is 8, and that issue of 8 is interesting. The same way as we have in Amos, for 3 yea, for 4 I will not forgive. There's an Ugaritic book called the Life of Akkad, who was a good straight person. In all likelihood is the lost Sefer HaYashar, because there is a person by the name of Daniel in there, and it talks about 3 great people who were Yesharim in the Tanakh, and one of them is Daniel without a Yud. Daniel without a Yud. And it couldn't have been Daniel Isha Hamudot from later on, because it refers to before. So is that book. In that book he has for 7, yea, for 8 I will not forgive. He has these going those numbers. Now if you look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you have 8 beats there. Did you see that? And it doesn't work out in Hebrew, but in some languages it works out this way, so that when I go da 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 da, no, it's not finished unless you come with number 8. Okay, so there was these 8 he's trying to fix up ad mida hashminit kanal. ולהבין על ידי מה בא התיקון הגדול הזה, יש לומר, והנה אמר חז"ל, ליהודה מכבי, בנו של מתתיהו הכהן, לבש קינת השם צבאות בסוד מכבי, שהוא נוטרקון מי כמוך בעלם השם. וקפץ לתוך המחנה הרב של האומה הזאת, שהיו לאלפים לרבות, and he did that במסירת נפש. וצווח ואמר, חרב השם, חרב להשם, ונצחם והרגם. והיינו על ידי מסירת נפש להשם באמת ובדבקות גדול על כבוד התורה קדושת שמו יתברך. ולגודל מסירת נפש להשם באמת אז כאפס ועין נחשבו בעיניהם, because he has much more force behind him, לא בחייל ולא בכוח, כי ברוחי, and in Beruchi he has greater power than that. ועל ידי זה באו למדרגה מבחינת עין, and that's an important one. Mesirat Nefesh is a very hard thing, because you cannot do it with ego. Because it's precisely that you have to give away in Mesiras Nefesh, And so you come, that's why he's saying, through Mesiras Nefesh you come to B'chinat Ayin. V'zehu besod mayin nukvin haina shemasu nafsham la'Hashem be'emes. What's mayin nukvin? Mayin nukvin, female waters, is a metaphor for itaruta deletata. When there is itaruta delela, you call it mind churin. When we are the ones who are arousing the things, itaruta, the arousal, but it comes from us. And Mesirat Nefesh is that which we have to bring to them. It's like Adam ki yakriv mikem korban laHashem. It's not from other things. V'zachu lavo lemadreget b'chinas alma ilah kadisha nikra ayin. Sod kitra ilah kadisha, it's the keter. Now watch this thing. וכיוון שבאו לבחינת עין, שם דבר והיפוכה שווים. ויכול להתחלף ולהתהפך כל דבר מאשר היה מקודם. ואז ממילא נהפך הדבר עליהם לטוב, והתחילו להמשיך ולתקן כביכול על גמל נערות המושכן שמן הפרסמון. I'm going to stop now. The point he has made that when you get to that level of ayin, there, good and evil, all these things can turn. Transformation can happen in ayin. It can't happen without that. So when they talk, for instance, about what is it that makes a seed become capable of growth, it's because it has rotted away, as it were, from its earlier way of being. The caterpillar becomes mush before it becomes a butterfly. So let's talk a little bit more about the transformative stuff of ayin and how it makes for transformation. Anyone?
I just keep thinking about the transformation of Yavan. If you at the Tzadi you get Sion, because he makes the reference to Sion earlier on. I don't know if
Say it again, please.
Just one of the transformations I think of in all of this is Yavan,
Yeah.
and you have the Tzadi and you get Sion. And he talks about Sion v'Yerushalayim earlier on. I just wondered whether there's somehow some idea of that transformation of Yavan with the Tzadi.
That would be very nice.
You know,
If you're a tzaddik, you can take Yavan and make it.
Exactly.
It's already drosh v'kavol schar. One could make a whole big long drush.
Actually, Shlomo Riskin did a long drush on that years ago. He's an Ephrat now, but he wrote something in the Jewish Exponent in Parshat Shavua around Hannukah, where he said, Tzion is Tzedek Yavan.
Yeah.
Without the righteousness of the Greek culture, we wouldn't have the Talmud. We basically took all kinds of hermeneutic ideas from the Greeks, and so we shouldn't treat this holiday as one where we beat off these oppressors and got no value in the whole relationship. We actually got tremendous value. Whether or not we think we got Hellenized is another maisa, but we got tremendous gifts from them. So he said there's even tzedek in Yavan.
There is another teaching with that Yavan. Instead of tzaddik, hey gimel, the higayon. That Yavan stands for logic and linear thinking.
Yeah.
And that the Madriga Shminit he talks about here.
Hey Gimel in
Hey
Yavan.
Gimel is Shmone. Madriga Shminit.
Very good.
So, yeah, we need the Higayon, we need the Yud Vav Nun, but we need also to transcend it. And that's you get our Higayon rather than their Higayon.
So that's the pshat, you know. V'hegyon libe lefanecha. Yeah. Anybody else? On transformation and why transformation means going into nothing.
For me, it's that when you study the history of this thing that we call Hannukah, the fact is that the myth we have has no relationship with the history. And the history doesn't have any relationship with the myth. I mean, it goes both ways. And what you're left with is the need to transform this not truth and the truth into something that's really meaningful for this time. I mean, I'll never forget the experience when I graduated from high school with all the myths of history. And I began my freshman year in college. And two things happened at the same time. One was I had a American history class in college, which removed all the myths of American history. And it was my first course on a collegiate level in Jewish history. It was with Max Vorspan at the University of Judaism. And we spent weeks studying this period. And it was a shock to me. So how could I do Hanukkah? I grew up thinking it was miracles and all this stuff, but there was no spiritual element to it. And I remember asking him after the final class on this period, so what is there? And he said, you have to transform, I'm going to use that word, that which you now have, it wasn't the deconstruction, that wasn't a word in those days, but it really meant that,
Yeah.
to deconstruct the whole thing.
Demythologize, remythologize.
Right, right.
I
You
may,
see? Please.
I may be misunderstanding your question, and I don't think there's really for people absolute ayin, but I think there are times when we think that we're in ayin,
Yeah.
that nothing makes sense, like wilderness. Like the people in the wilderness really weren't in ayin because they had a past behind them.
Mm-hmm.
But there are times like with the seed, Yehuda Halevi's seed, or when Pinchas of Koretz talks about the seed, where things really do fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is room for transformation. And I think that for our own spiritual life and for the spiritual lives of the people we're with, Hanukkah is such a great opportunity to recognize the absolute chaos and darkness that the walking into the Mikdash felt like, and this transformative event of saying, I need a God fix, or I need to light this light now, and something new is going to happen, and to be with people or be with ourselves as we go through this. And it's such a fundamental religious act. I don't know if that was what...
It's good because here's what happens with this. There are the seasons. So whether or not Yetzias Mitzrayim happened in Nisan, the fact that is that the Canaanites already were celebrating something that had to do with lambs and so on and so forth at the vernal equinox. So we have there are some things that are more primitive, but then Maaseh Avot, Siman Levanim, and we take that and we then transform it and we transvalue it. We put something in there. Now, all of a sudden, that which was a fertility celebration for spring has got to do with Avadim Hayinu Lefar B'Mitzrayim and caring for people and V'Gadat Levincha, and a whole edifice is built on this chthonic thing that happens every spring. Hanukkah is in the same kind of a situation. The 25th of December, Davke, the witnesses, who knock on doors and teach us, they have come with their Bible recognition that Jesus was born in the fall. So why is it that they did? And because Asher Tikru Atem B'Moadam, when it comes to fixing Yom Tovim, is given to us. Shabbos is Kavua B'Kaima. We can't move that around. But for instance, Lo Bedu Rosh, because you don't want to have Erev Yom Kippur being a Friday or a Sunday, Yom Kippur coming out on Sunday. So we have to always make sure that it'll come out just the right way, and we manipulate the time this way. It's given to us. Now, if you look at the Hoshanas, Hosanna in the highest, Hosanna, Hosanna, that must have happened in the fall. So why do they make Palm Sunday in the spring? For the same reason, that you schlep it to places where the drama is going to be, where the liturgical stuff is going to work better, and so on and so forth. So here's Hanukkah, and this is the situation, and now we've got a date and we have got something to do it with, and with that begins already, the days begin to lengthen because we're past the winter solstice, and so mostly Veholech and Shammai. If you've come in upstairs, you've seen I have two menorahs. One is a Shammai menorah and one is a
I was wondering what that was.
Huh?
Okay, now I
The
was wondering why one was
I
wrong. Now I
would
understand.
say you've gone shamuti.
Amehadrin min amehadrin min amehadrin.
Oh!
Well, so I have to tell you that just earlier this week, in his Shiur with Yehudis,
Yeah.
they learned together all of the Hillel and Shammai stuff, and so when I came to pick up Amitai, they were just finishing.
Yeah.
So Amitai says to Yehuda, says he's walking out. He always has to do his little.
Yeah.
So he says, so what if I were to try this year? What if I were to decide this year to light the Hannukah according to Beit Shammai?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll become a shamuti.
Uh-huh.
And Yehudis looks at her, he says, what if I just tried it? And she kind of looks at him and she goes, after Hannukah.
Well, you see, I had another reason. Because when it comes to Havdalah, it says, Shammai says that you say, Bore Ma'or Ha'esh.
That was the other thing they learned together.
Yeah.
And he's going to do that on Havdalah.
Right. And so the Gemara says, what's the machlekes ma'ika benayhu? So it says that Hillel has kama gavna ika benura, there are many colors to light, and that's why the Hillel menorah has got different color bulbs, and the Shammai menorah has only one. See, and so each day I'm poches veholech and mostly veholech on one and turning off the other one. So,
Rabbi, I wonder. Excuse me. I wonder if on some level, Hannukah is a tikkun for Shmini Atzeret.
it's true that there's a whole geschäft on that. Not so much. Yeah, it's for Shmini Atzeret because that's what they're saying. That
Well, I know it's supposed to be Sukkot that wasn't there. It was a replacement for Sukkot, but I'm thinking of something else. I wonder if there's something on there about Shmini Atzeret being one day of holding back, and Hanukkah's 8th day of ever flowing. And there's also Shammai and Hillel in there too about counting down to 1 and building up to 8. So if I wonder if on a sod level that there's a Shmini Atzeret Hanukkah connection that needs to be unpacked.
Well, I think every time we come up with something, an insight, it is wonderful because they're having something about the 70 days and so on. So let's learn a little part. He's going to take us to some interesting
Can I
places.
still jump in on that one?
Yeah.
It also connects to what you said. I'm not sure. I have another take on that. But first, and I'm not sure how this is coming out, but your question makes me wonder what transformation, what that word means.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I need another word so that I can differentiate between a light change, a minor recharging of the batteries, and a total transformation. That they're really, and I think we all use the word transformation a lot without being clear about that distinction. And I think about, like, there are some batteries that if you keep that are rechargeable, but if you need to let them run totally down, if you don't do that, then every time you recharge them, they have less and less ability.
Yeah.
And so I guess for myself, I'm just want to get clear on. So there are times, Shabbos and other things, lots of things can give me a renewal more than a transformation. A transformation requires a total rundown of the battery, going to that iron place, letting go, because I search for change and to improve myself all the time, but that's really different from when I let it all go, allow the terror to come up of it's all gone.
No moorings whatsoever.
And that gets to what my take on what you said. I was on the beach in Israel many years ago on Tisha B'Av, and the yin-yang symbol came to me. And I realized, Tisha B'Av is the yin-yang symbol, Tisha B'Av and Hannukah. Tisha B'Av is the dark spot in the light side. It's bright and out, and we need to go into the darkness. And Hannukah is the is the
Light.
light and the dark side, and that
Very sweet.
we need, and it's like not only do we need, and the yin yang is about transformation. There's a spot of the other in each, and so somehow transformation of Hannukah, they're both scary to me right now. Both of them are scary to me right now. I think it has to do with where I am in my life at the
let's
moment.
go
but-
slower with that, because there's the Ouroboros in a way, where now it's Tchilatan B'Sofan. When you go and you say that when you are finished in the Möbius strip, you come to the other side, and that's where the yin yang is. And sometimes I use given mine to somebody. I had a rock that was a three-dimensional yin yang, which is like a tennis ball. Right? So, I gave it to somebody as a Gamze Yavor thing for the time being. But if you say the word transform, and you go with Aristotle that there is substance and form, you say the substance is remaining, the form has been transformed. Okay? When you say metamorphosis, it's the same thing in Greek. Transform, morphing, overmorphing. And so most of the time we want to say this is a total metamorphosis and this is only a transformation here, so that the issue is, will the substance change or will it not change? So then they say, what is tshuva? Tshuva is kirchog mizrach lemarav. If you were to say kirchog darom mitzafon, it is a finite distance, because by the time you get to the pole, it switches around. Okay, but Mizrach, you can keep on going Mizrach infinitely, and you can go Ma'ariv infinitely. All you need to do is turn around, right? And then, although you work Yechok Mizrach LeMa'ariv, when there's that tshuva, the turning around, then you're very close together. So there are all these mishalim where we're trying to talk about what happens. What is not, In early days of computer stuff, I used to have to burn EPROMs. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
EPROMs?
EPROMs. And these are the kind of chips into which you can install something that will stay. It's not merely when the machine is on, does it have it, but it also keeps it. And most of this stuff, when you first turn on the machine, is that way. It's embedded in EPROMs, so that there is programming already there, which does not evaporate, as it were. Okay. Now, I wanted to have an EPROM made so that I could, and I programmed it so that an aleph would appear on my screen in a bit, so I put the whole alphabet on an EPROM. I realized at one point I made a mistake, so I had to go and reprogram it again. And it wasn't easy to get another one. Today, these are throwaway chips, you can do it so fast. So what did they do? They did an ultraviolet light over the EPROM, and what it did was it made it ready to receive again the new program. Okay. Now the chip remained the same, but there was a transformation of what filled it with consciousness, if you will say, and so on. I find these mishalim very, very helpful, because if you say that you're transformed, even if you want total transformation, you're still going to be there. You're not dead, and you haven't been dissolved that way. And I think that's a very important thing to say, that an etzem, a essential existent quality remains in you, and that doesn't.
And we shouldn't seek to get rid of that, which I think sometimes we do.
Right. That's why I don't like the notion bittul hayesh, and I like to call it transparency. I'm not bottle. I'm still here. I'm not destroyed, but I'm also not opaque, the light that's coming through, I'm letting it through. It isn't, I'm not resisting it, okay?
But I think this is why, sorry.
Go.
I think that this is why he's talking about shemen. Because if, as you talk about transformation and essence, I'm thinking about the process of how do you produce perfume? You actually distill.
Did you read the Still Small Voice, Drash?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just read
Yeah,
it
so
last
this
night.
all came together to me. That you, in order to create perfume, you have to, you actually create an oil from the flower. Yeah?
Right.
So what it's a transformation, but the essence remains.
Well, the thing is becoming even stronger with homeopathy.
It's the same idea.
You know, and now this business with the water, you've seen those pictures of different water crystals. You know, there wasn't what the bleep.
What the bleep? I actually saw the book about. There's a book out on
There's
water.
a book. It's a beautiful book that shows this Japanese guy went and took water crystals, and when they came from living water, from Mayim Chaim, it would be so interesting to take water from a mikveh and from Mayim Shuvim and to crystallize it and to see it. Upstairs in the water jug, you will see I wrote on top, on the side of the jug, something, because according to his Inyan, if you write some good things over the water container, the water becomes more
in Sufism, reciting various names of God and blowing on the water transforms it into a healing property.
And then it becomes better to hydrate with, you know.
But in every Hindu puja,
an
you
issue
have.
with a question or
Good.
what you just said about Bitul Hayesh and the previous question about going into the ayin, having to go back to the ayin for true transformation. In the ayin, there's no yesh, so it is a Bitul Hayesh. So maybe the etzem is in the ayin, but it's not yesh yet. You know, I mean, because the image that I had when you asked that question was about in the ayin is all thing, right? All the fullness of the thing is there, but it's not yesh yet, right?
Yeah, so
you have to go. You have to do away with the yesh that was. You know whatever piece of the everything emerged, you have to distill that back to the place where it's all, in order to re-emerge in the yesh in a transformed way. So it is a bitul hayesh, but you're still not. But the etzem is in the ayin.
So that when I say transparent, I mean to say that the yesh is what makes opaque. Whatever is the opacity, that's the yesh, and then the structure remains. As I was saying, you're not dead yet. You know, you are still there. But when you say to somebody that you have to destroy your ego, you know, then I watch always my pocketbook, the thing, because the ego is a good manager, is a lousy boss, but a manager that you need to have around as a shaman. I want to show you. We are running out of time. I want to show you one more shtick a little bit farther down. So he reminds us that Aaron Cohen represents Hod. And then do you see that piece that says V'od Amru Bezohar Kadosh? Have you got that? A little farther down. The Bechinat Aaron HaKohen Hu Bechesed. So B'Ha'ir Lev Yesh Lomar. Here you say that Aaron is Chesed, and a moment ago you said Aaron is Hod. Make up your mind, okay? The Hine Kol HaSfirot HaMidot Kedosh עליון הקדוש הם מקבלים דין מן דין בסוד ישר ולפעמים בסוד אלכסון. Got that? So that the right arm and the left leg walk together, and there's a crossover. And that's the reason why I put Sarah in Hod, with Avraham being in Chesed and the crossing over to Sarah. And that's why I put Rivka on the right leg, representing Netzach, because she is the Shakti of Yitzchak, and it's the crossover. And if you look at the number of crossovers that are in the body, it's amazing. The right eye goes to the left brain and vice versa, and so with the ears also. So that those things that we sort of take for granted, that the division stays, it's not that way. And that redundancy of the body is just like, again, the internet. Why was the internet made? If something gets bombed out, there are other paths and ways in which it can connect. And so the body has built in some redundancies that help people survive. So I want to show you that Alachson, כשעלה הרצון לפני הבורא כל העולם בורא ברוך שמו, להשפיע חסדים טובים לישראל, עם קרובו, what happened, that was להושיע מרביהם ולנקום נגמסיהם, ועל ידי הניצחון המלחמה יבוא רב טוב וחסד לכל ישראל. אזי משפיע החסד עליון אל כלי הגבורה בסוד אלכסון, כביכול מקודם נכלל שמאלה בימינו, ומשם בא לכלי הגבור לבחינת הוד. And then he says, מזה בא החסד והישוע לישראל. ומתגברים לנצח ולהינקם מרביהם. וזה דארון הכהן מבחינת חסד, and גם מבחינת הוד. So here comes out this thing that as he and some other people are laying out that Hannukah is in Hod. If you say Yom Kippur is Keter, the 2 days Rosh Hashanah are Chochmah and Bina, Pesach is Chesed, Shavuos is Gvura, Sukkot is Tiferet, Netzach is Purim, Shuatam Hayita LaNetzach, and Hod is Kedei Lahodot Lahalel is in Hannukah. Lemata so Mezuzah Miyamin, Hannukah Mismol, you have all these symbols there. All right, I just wanted you to see this thing. For me, the most important part of this Torah is that the Mikdash came alive, that the Shem and HaMishra makes it come alive.
The Wi-Fi.
Huh?
The Wi-Fi.
Pardon?
The Wi-Fi.
The Wi-Fi. And I think that if we could think of initiation of people, as if to say, when Lahavdil, they do a confirmation in the church. When they did the baptism, it was with water, and the water evaporates. But when they get to be sort of bar mitzvah, and the bishop says, do you forswear now that you are bar da'at? Do you give up the devil and all his minions, and so on and so forth? And do you accept O Malchut Shamayim according to them?